Okay, so today let's dive into something, a career path that I think a lot of people probably don't think too much about, but it's actually got way more to it than you might think at first glance. We're talking about animal grooming. Now, before you say, wait a minute, I'm not running a doggy daycare, this isn't for me, trust me, this RoleCatcher guide that you sent over, it really digs into some fascinating stuff. Not just about animals, but also about running your own business and even how technology is starting to change the game. I know I learned a lot just reading through it, so hopefully you will too.
It's funny you should say that about the business side of things,
Yeah.
because one of the things that really struck me about this guide is how much it emphasizes the psychology involved in working with animals. It's not just about making them look cute,
Mm.
you know. It's about understanding their behavior and making sure they're comfortable and safe throughout the entire grooming process. It's like a delicate dance between technical skill and emotional intelligence.
Yeah, it's like being an animal whisperer, but with clippers,
Hmm.
which I have to admit sounds kind of cool. But okay, I know everyone's probably already picturing, those cute puppies and kittens just waiting to be cuddled. And yeah, the flexible schedule probably sounds pretty good to a lot of people too. But when I saw the guide mention entrepreneurship, that's what really caught me off guard. Are we really talking about potentially running your own salon or even like a mobile grooming business? Is that really a viable option these days?
Oh, absolutely. And the guide really plays that up,
Yeah.
the idea that you could be your own boss and set your own hours and rates. That's a huge draw for a lot of people, especially now.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, but let's be real for a second. It can't be all sunshine and tail wags, right? I mean, the guy does mention some of the downsides, like allergies, which I guess are to be expected. But then they also brought up zoonotic diseases. And I got to be honest, I'm not totally clear on what those are or like how big of a concern that would be for someone considering this field.
Yeah, that's definitely something to be aware of, especially if you're thinking about this as a career. Zoonotic diseases are basically illnesses that can spread from animals to humans. So things like ringworm or certain parasites. Now, the guide doesn't go into a ton of detail, but it is a good reminder that working with animals does come with inherent risks, even if they are incredibly rewarding.
So, how do you mitigate those risks?
Well, a lot of it comes down to taking precautions. Proper hygiene is essential, washing your hands constantly, using disinfectants. And depending on the type of animals you're working with, vaccinations might be something to discuss with your doctor.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we've got this balance of potential risks and rewards, but this wouldn't be the deep dive if we didn't go a little deeper, right? And there was something else in the guide that really caught my eye. Technology. They talk about telemedicine for vets, which I guess makes sense. But I'm curious, could technology actually play a role in the grooming itself?
Oh, I think that's a fantastic question, especially with how much tech is disrupting just about every industry these days. And while the guide mostly sticks to talking about telemedicine in the context of vets, I don't think it's that far-fetched to imagine how it could apply to grooming itself. Like imagine for a second doing a virtual consultation with a pet owner
Mhm.
before the actual appointment. You talk about what kind of style they're going for. Maybe their pet has some anxieties that you need to be aware of. Or you could even get a really clear picture of what they want their furry friend to look like afterward.
Oh, wow. See, that's a game changer. No more trying to decipher vague instructions from a frazzled owner while their dog's like looking up at you like, what are they going to do to me?
Exactly. It could make things so much smoother for everyone involved.
Absolutely. And the guide also talked about how groomers can specialize in certain breeds or even specific animals. Like you could be the go-to stylist for Persian cats, or maybe you're the dog whisperer of doodles. Is that something you see happening even more in the future?
Oh, for sure. Specialization is just a natural progression in any field, and grooming is no exception. Think about it. Some doctors specialize in knees, others in hearts. Groomers can do the same thing. Maybe you're amazing with cats, or you have this knack for those really elaborate show dog haircuts.
Yeah, right.
I think identifying a niche not only lets you play to your strengths, but it can really help you stand out from the crowd. And if you can build a loyal clientele, that could lead to more job security or even higher earnings.
Yeah, it's like finding your passion within your passion. Now, I was looking through the list of skills the guide emphasizes, and I'm curious to get your take on them. Customer service and handling difficult animals seem like no-brainers. But they also mention staying up to date on industry trends. Does anything about that surprise you?
What surprises me is how often people underestimate the people skills needed in a job like this.
Hmm.
It's not enough to just be good with animals. You have to be good with their owners too.
Yeah.
And that means managing expectations, dealing with difficult personalities, and staying calm under pressure.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
It's all part of the job description.
It sounds like you need to be like a therapist, stylist, and animal behaviorist all rolled into one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've established that animal grooming is a lot more than just, fluffing fur. It's about understanding animal behavior, having some business savvy, and even being tech savvy to some extent. But what about the person behind the clippers? What kind of person really thrives in this environment? Besides just saying that they love
Oh,
animals.
that's such a good point.
Yeah.
You've hit on something really important there, because loving animals is definitely a starting point. But it's what you build on top of that that really makes all the difference. And let's be honest, not every day is going to be filled with well-behaved, fluffy puppies. You're going to have anxious dogs, scared cats, maybe even a bird or two who'd rather be anywhere else. So patience is a must-have in this job.
Oh, tell me about it. Even my well-behaved pup has his moments.
And it's not just the animals you're dealing with, their owners too. And let's just say some are easier to work with than others.
I can imagine.
So yeah, good communication is key. And being able to stay calm and professional, even when you're dealing with a stressed out pet parent.
Sounds like you need the patience of a saint and the height of a rhino. But seriously, though, those soft skills can make or break you in any career, let alone one where you're dealing with people's beloved pets. And speaking of different types of owners, the guide also mentioned the rise of mobile grooming, which I thought was really interesting. It's like instead of trying to wrangle your cat into a carrier and drag them to the salon comes to you. What's your perspective on that, both from the groomer side and the pet owner side?
I think it's a win-win in a lot of ways. For pet owners, it's all about convenience and reducing their pet's stress. And for groomers, it offers a ton of flexibility. You can set your own hours, choose your own routes. You're basically your own boss.
Yeah, which ties back to that whole entrepreneurial spirit we were talking about earlier. It really does sound like a dream for anyone who values their independence. But I imagine there are challenges unique to mobile grooming too, right?
Oh, for sure. Logistically, it's a whole other ballgame. For one thing, you need a specialized vehicle. It's not like you can just throw some clippers and shampoo in your back seat and call it a day.
Right.
You need a van or a trailer that's outfitted with everything,
Hmm.
a portable tub, a grooming table, proper lighting, ventilation. And then there's the fact that you're not always working in the ideal environment. One client might have a spacious driveway, the next might be in a tiny apartment.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So being adaptable is really important.
It's like you're a traveling salon bringing the spa experience to the pets.
Exactly.
And speaking of spa experiences, there's another trend that the guide mentioned that I wanted to ask you about. This whole movement towards natural and organic grooming products. We're seeing it everywhere these days, even for humans. What do you think is driving that shift?
Well, I think it's more than just a fad. People are just more conscious about what you're putting in and on their bodies. And that goes for their pets too. They want products that are gentle, free of harsh chemicals, less likely to trigger allergies. And there's a growing body of research suggesting that some of the chemicals in conventional pet products could actually be harmful in the long run.
I never really thought about that. I mean, it's easy to just grab the cheapest bottle of shampoo off the shelf, but now you've got me thinking about what's actually in it and what it could be doing to my furry friend.
And that's a good thing to think about, because it's all part of this bigger shift in how we view our pets.
Yeah, like that line between pet owner and pet parent is definitely blurring.
Totally.
We're more invested in their overall well-being, not just whether or not they look cute after a bath.
Exactly.
We're paying more attention to their anxieties, their allergies, their unique needs.
It's about seeing them as individuals.
Right, and valuing their health and happiness just as much as our own.
And that brings us back to those essential skills we were talking about. A good groomer isn't just someone who can give a dog a haircut. It's someone who understands that each animal is different and deserves to be treated as such.
It's a more holistic approach to pet care, where grooming is just one piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. But let's not forget about the practical side of things. We've talked a lot about the artistry and the emotional intelligence involved in grooming, but the guide didn't get too deep into the financial aspect. What can someone realistically expect to earn in this field, and what factors influence that?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Unfortunately, there's no easy answer. Salaries for groomers can vary widely depending on a lot of things.
Okay.
Experience is a big one, obviously. Someone who's just starting out is going to earn less than someone who's been doing it for years and has a loyal clientele.
Right. They're still building their reputation.
Exactly. Location matters too. Big cities tend to have higher earning potential, but also more competition.
That makes sense.
And of course, whether you're working for someone else or running your own business makes a huge difference. Owning your own salon or mobile growing business comes with more risk, but also the potential for much higher rewards.
So it's not your typical 9 to 5 where you know exactly what you're making year after year, right? It's about finding the right niche, building your skills, and creating a brand for yourself.
It's like being an entrepreneur in any other industry.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those listening who might be intrigued by this whole grooming thing, what advice would you give them? What are some things to really consider before taking the plunge?
Well, first and foremost, do your research. Shadow a groomer.
Hmm.
Talk to people in the industry. Get a feel for what the day-to-day is really like. And be honest with yourself about your strengths and weaknesses.
Hmm.
Are you patient, compassionate? Can you handle stressful situations? Are you okay with being on your feet all day and lifting heavy animals?
Because let's be real, not all dogs are tiny.
Exactly. And if you're thinking about the entrepreneurial route, don't underestimate the business side of things. Do you have the drive, the organizational skills, the financial savvy to really make it work?
It's about more than just loving animals. It's about understanding all the different facets of this career. Now, before we move on to the future of grooming, which I'm very excited to talk about, I wanted to circle back to something else the guide highlighted, the role of technology. We already touched on virtual consultations, but what other tech advancements are you seeing, and how do you think they'll shape the industry moving forward?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's a perfect segue into the next part of our deep dive,
Okay.
because we're talking AI robotics. The future of grooming is about to get very interesting.
All right, listeners, you heard it here first. We're about to step into the future of animal grooming. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
And we're back, folks, ready to jump into the future of animal grooming. And no, I'm not talking about robot dogs replacing our furry friends, at least not yet. But seriously, what kind of technology are we talking about here? What could really change the game for groomers? We'll get ready, because this is where things get really interesting. I mean, we already see how much tech is changing the way we care for our pets in general, from smart collars that track their activity to those automatic feeders that make sure they never miss a meal. But when you start thinking about grooming specifically, the possibilities are kind of mind-blowing. Imagine for a second being a groomer and before the appointment even starts, you get a notification on your phone, and it's a digital file with the pet's health records, any notes from the vet, even specific details from the owner, like maybe they're worried about a sensitive spot on their dog or they have a very particular haircut in mind.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going with this. So no more trying to decipher those handwritten notes while the dog's looking up at you like, what's going on?
Exactly. It just streamlines the whole process. You're not guessing about allergies. You're not misinterpreting what just a trim means to that particular owner, but it goes even further than that. Imagine AI tools that can analyze a pet's coat and skin and then recommend the best shampoo, the best conditioner, even special treatments based on that data.
Wow, it's like a personalized spa experience, but for your dog.
Exactly.
So you've got this digital assistant helping you personalize each appointment. But what about the actual grooming itself? Are we talking robot clippers taking over the world?
That's where it gets really futuristic. And yes, researchers are actually developing robotic arms right now to help with things like brushing, drying, even trimming nails. Now, before anyone freaks out about robots replacing human groomers, remember that the artistry of grooming, the creativity, that's always going to require a skilled human touch.
Okay, that's good to hear.
These robots are more like assistants. They can handle the repetitive tasks or the things that are physically demanding, which frees up the groomer to focus on the details, the animal's comfort, and that overall perfect look.
That makes sense. But I'm curious, what about the pets themselves? I mean, all this technology sounds amazing, but won't it kind of freak them out?
That's a question a lot of people have, and honestly, it's a valid concern. But the good news is that developers are very aware of this. The key is to introduce the technology slowly and make it as non-intrusive as possible.
So how do you do that?
Take those robotic arms I mentioned. They're designed to move gently, mimicking the way a human would touch an animal. And they'll be equipped with sensors to detect any signs of stress.
Oh, wow.
So if the pet starts to get anxious, the robot will stop what it's doing and alert the groomer.
Okay, so it's not about replacing the human touch. It's more about using technology to enhance it
Exactly.
and to make the experience better for everyone.
Precisely.
But of course, none of this works if groomers aren't on board.
Right. They'll need training on all this new tech.
Right.
And not just how to use it, but also how to recognize when something isn't right and when to step in with their own expertise and judgment.
Absolutely. Wow, it really is a whole new world of grooming, isn't it? So for anyone listening who might be thinking about this as a career, Or maybe they're just fascinated by the topic like I am. What's the one big takeaway you want them to remember?
I think at the end of the day, no matter how advanced technology gets, animal grooming will always be about a deep love for animals and wanting them to feel their best. And behind every well-groomed pet is a skilled and compassionate professional who understands their needs, their quirks, and approaches them with both skill and a whole lot of heart.
I love that. It's a good reminder that even in our increasingly tech-driven world, sometimes the most important things are the human touch, a little bit of patience, and a genuine love for our furry friends. And on that note, a huge thank you to you, expert speaker, for walking us through this incredible deep dive into the world of animal grooming.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been truly fascinating. And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us today. We hope you learned something new, maybe gained a new perspective on this amazing profession. And who knows, maybe you're even inspired to try out some of that fancy new tech on your own furry friend. Until next time, keep those tails wagging, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.